When I scripted this video, I thought it was going to be a lot easier, but now that I'm about to say it out loud, it's harder. So about 6 weeks, for the last 6 weeks, it's been the hardest 6 weeks of my life. And about 2 weeks ago, I lost one of the most important people on earth to me that has raised me, and it's been very difficult, to say the least. And during this time, there's these two questions that came up through the grieving process. And the first question is, what happens after death? And the second question is, why do we celebrate the birth of a baby and not the death of an elderly? In this video, I want to share some deep lessons from my experience with the hope that it either inspires you to live a life of death and or to appreciate those people close to you, and to maybe help you navigate those hard moments when they do come. I read this book during my grieving process, and it spoke about the 5 regrets of the dying, which I'll share with you after my quick story of the past few weeks. So this was my grandmother's second time with cancer in the last 5 years, and the first time she kicked it in the butt, but the second time around, not so much. And I don't really need to get into details or want to get into details. It is still a personal matter, private matter, and to respect the person who has left this earth. We'll keep some things private in terms of details. So I'd rather dig into the lessons and the journey that I've been through and the lessons that I went through, and more just about my experience and my journey. I recognize cancer is one of the most common diseases out there and the most common reason for dying. And for anybody who is going through it, about to go through it, who has gone through it, just know that I love you and I'm there with you, for you, and I understand what you're dealing with or what you're about to deal with. And this is a big reason why I started a nonprofit, which I'm currently working on. I've been working on for the last year, but the nonprofit is everything around the foods we eat, the lifestyle we live, and the type of purpose that we attempt to live and discover through our journey through life. And this whole last 6 weeks is another reason, another fire in my pit of motivation to really push forward with this nonprofit, because I don't want anybody to go through what my grandmother went through and what I went through. And these are things that they can't be preventable 100%, but we can definitely do our best to prevent the percentages of receiving such awful disease. And at the same time, if we live a life of full purpose and we live a very present lifestyle, it allows us to not be scared of death, and allows us to accept it when it does come, because it comes for everybody. What I'm grateful for is the last couple of years I've been spending a lot more time with her. And ever since the first scare we had, oh, cute little bird. Ever since the first scare we had, it really energized me to be here for her. And I was traveling at the time. I came back and spent a lot of time here in my small town with her. And there's been on and off where I left for a few years and came back, and I knew that there was something going on deeper inside where there wasn't much time. So I'm grateful that I spent as much time as I possibly could with her, and maximize that. So I'm really grateful for that. And I guess the lesson there is to really embrace those type of moments. And when you have the person in front of you, and even if it's 4 generations, 5 generations farther than you, and there's no similarities, but you can always find similarities somewhere. And we found a lot of similarities in food and in health. So I'm grateful for those moments. And yeah, like I said, we got a 4-week notice that she will be passing away. So we had 4 weeks where we made the best of it. I asked so many deep questions. We got deep in so many ways, and it was of an absolute amazing 4 weeks with her. And I'm glad she's no longer suffering, and is on to other things, whatever the soul has planned for us, whatever the universe has planned for us. So many theories on that, and we'll get into that a bit later. But I know that she's wherever it is, she is in a better place, and she is no longer suffering, and that is the most important thing out of all of this. So it's a really cool quote I want to share with you. The soul takes birth to learn, to remember, to experience the play of life, and when it's done with that experience, it seeks another. Quote from The Amazing Mind of Ram Dass. So I'm just about to get into the 5 most regrets of the dying, but there's a quick little story that I want to share with you. 15 minutes after she passed, I was there and I left, and I was driving to where I am staying at the cottage, which is about 20 minutes away from the house. And I was driving, and it was a very difficult drive, of course, and I was in a very, I guess, fight or flight mode, and my whole life was crumbling down in front of me. My whole life, it just crumbled. I lost the most important person to me, and in that moment, I felt complete loss. Like, there's no words to explain how I felt, but it was interesting because you can tell the universe had a plan, and it was kind of guiding me. It was kind of showing me a lot, and this is what I got from it. It was interesting. So she actually passed away at 3 o'clock, 3:41, and some of you may know 341 is a strong angel number. So I found out afterwards, and I was reading up about it. I was like, okay, cool. That brings me a lot of peace. But anyway, so that time is important here because that is the time that everybody has done school here where I'm from, around 3 o'clock. So when I was driving, I decided to take the back ways to avoid traffic, to avoid busy, and just to be kind of alone. But the path I took was the path of a bus route. And that bus took a lot of time, obviously, and when they stop, you stop behind the car, you can't pass, and that's cool. There's a lot of kids coming off, and this was the moment where a lot started to flick through me here. Every stop, every house we would stop, and there was kids coming out, and these kids were so full of life, so happy and so joyful, and they're running off the bus and cheering and yelling and excited, and their parents are waiting for them there, and they're hugging their parents, and there's just so much love and so much purity. And then the other house, there's a dog waiting there with the mom, and the dog was so happy, wiggling his tail, and the kids were so happy. And then, of course, the back of the bus, you have the where I used to sit, back of the bus, and you make faces at the other cars, and like these kids are making faces at me and having a blast, and I'm there like I just lost my entire life, lost the most important person to me. Sorry. So it was like, and that lasted for about 10 minutes. I was reflecting on it, not so much in the moment, but I reflected a lot about it afterwards. And the purity of life, right? Someone's life could be in absolute chaos. And at that same exact moment, somebody else's life could be an absolute joy. You're just seeing your parent for the first time all day. The parents just seeing you for the first time all day, as in the kid, because it's the first year they're in school maybe, and they're not used to that because the first 4 years you're always with your mom or your dad. These moments of like, oh my God, you're back. Yeah, I'm so happy. And the dog is so happy. The kid's back home. Your best friend, right? So these people have so much to live for and so much more time to give, right? And on the other side, the person driving right there, a whole other life has just ended, right? Going through so much chaos, and the most important person to me has passed away, and it's just such a beautiful thing. And I think that's where it made me appreciate death, where it made me appreciate, wow, like she lived an amazing life and she did everything she possibly could. She was the greatest grandmother and mother to me, and she left with no regrets, and I asked her so many questions. So it was just, yeah, it was a beautiful experience and moment, and I'm glad that I went through that, because if I would have just rushed home, or took the other way because it was faster, I wouldn't have experienced any of that, and I wouldn't have seen all the life and all the beauty that there is to live, and how much beauty I still have to live. And this other quote that I'd love to share: death is not the end, but the beginning of a new journey. The end of one's life is the beginning of another. All right, let's shift the gears a little bit. Let's talk about the book I was reading, The 5 Most Regrets of the Dying. And this is a book for anybody watching, you at home, me, myself. can really learn from. This book was written by, what was her name? Her name was Bronnie Ware from Australia. She was a nurse for the people who are dying and their last couple weeks or months on their deathbeds, and she registered thousands and thousands of patients, and these were the top 5 regrets. And by the way, this has nothing to do about my grandmother. She actually lived a life of no regrets. I asked her so many questions, and that was the biggest thing. She had no regrets, which was amazing. This more so experience journey struck a chord with me on what would be some of my regrets. How am I living my life? Like what's going on, right? So it struck a chord, and then I read this book, and then I was like, oh wow, like these are the top 5 regrets. Let's make sure I don't have these type of regrets, because that would just, wouldn't be cool. So let's start with number 1. So at number 1, we have, I wish I had had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. That one hit me hard because I think that is the most common one. I think that is the one that most of us are maybe feeling right now. That is the one that I was feeling for 26, 7 years of my life. Just recently, in the last couple of years, I started not to feel that. But what she says in the books was, this was the most common regret of all. When people realize that their life is almost over and look back clearly on it, it is easy to see how many dreams have gone unfulfilled. Most people had not honored even half of their dreams and had to die knowing that it was due to choices that they had made or not made. Health brings a freedom that very few realize till they don't have it. And at number 2, I wish I hadn't worked so hard. And this came from every male patient that she nursed. They missed their children's youth and their partner's companionship. Woman also spoke of this regret, but as most were from an older generation. Many of the female patients had not been breadwinners. All of the men I nursed deeply regretted spending so much of their lives on the treadmill of a work existence. And this again hits home. What is the purpose of working every single day and you just miss your kids, your wife's companionship, the love, to get to a point where it's all done? Number 3, I wish I'd had the courage to express my feelings. Many people suppress their feelings in order to keep peace with others. As a result, they settle for a mediocre existence and never became who they were truly capable of becoming. Many developed illnesses relating to the bitterness and resentment they carried as a result. And I think this is big with the baby boomers and past generation not expressing their feelings. And I feel like the late millennials may be also feeling that. And the younger millennials are starting to express themselves more, and then the other generations maybe are expressing themselves a lot. We won't go into that rabbit hole, but the point is, it is very important to express ourselves. Of course, in a healthy fashion, in a healthy way. Not too much where you're telling the world and you're all over social media expressing everything and anything. But on the same breath, I think it is important to share how we feel. And this video, for example, is something that allows me to express how I feel and to also document these feelings and these moments in a way where these are lessons that I've learned and how I can grow from it to become better. So anyways, that was number 3. Number 4, the 4th most common regret of the dying. I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends. So what she was writing was, often they would not truly realize the full benefits of old friends until their dying weeks, and it was not always possible to track them down. Many had become so caught up in their own lives that they had let golden friendships slip by over the years. There were many deep regrets about not giving friendships the time and effort that they deserved. Everyone misses their friends when they are dying. And I think this one also hits hard, where it's, again, when we go through the rat race, when we have kids, we have our wife, our husband, we go through life and we forget about all our friends and we lose touch and stuff like that. But then, the kids move out, they start their journey and they have their lives, and that's great, and their families, and that's awesome. You're still in touch with them, and maybe your wife's still around, but what if the wife or the husband passes away first? But it's more so for me, how can I learn from that, right? How can I make sure that, I keep in touch with mine? So it's very interesting. And at number 5, the last one, the 5th most common regret of the dying. I wish that I had let myself be happier. And this one hit me hard. And I'm so grateful that I've overcome this now in the last couple of years. But if you would ask me this question a couple of years ago, no, I was definitely not. I would have regretted that. Like, I would be passing away, dying on my deathbed with this regret, 100%. So she wrote, "This is a surprisingly common one. Many did not realize until the end that happiness is a choice. They had stayed stuck in old patterns and habits. The so-called comfort of familiarity overflowed into their emotions as well as their physical lives. Fear of change had them pretending to others and to themselves that they were content when deep within they longed to laugh properly and enjoy freedom in their life again." And insane, eh? The 5 most common regrets are people noticing that happiness is a choice, and they were just stuck in their heads their entire life, regretting and not living a life that they want to live and living a life for others. So that's something that I've changed the last couple of years. And this is the whole reason for these accounts and the social media and connecting and building community and meeting the right people, and hopefully to inspire, to motivate others to grab a control of their lives, because this is all I live by. This is what I've been reading for the last 10 years. This is my purpose, is to share how I've overcome that and found my happiness through the hardest moments. And this is a very hard moment, and how I've been able to navigate this and be good and be okay. So anyways, I hope that these 5 regrets strike a chord in you. Maybe do something that you've always wanted to do. And we're going to lead this now with a closure. I have a few words just to kind of close this off and to shift gears, so the next video can be back on the, back on the energy train. So what I wrote was, I know this video was on the heavier side, but I'm going to leave you with this. Love all beings no matter what. Everybody is going through something, even if you don't see it. Respect others. Be present with your loved ones. And cherish every moment. You don't know when you will see them next. With love, Kris.